For those who are joining us for the first time, hang in there. It will be fun. And for those who have been with us throughout the session or throughout the year, let your experience be an inspiration to others. I'll hand over to Casper for our close. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cabello. Welcome everybody to today's session. We only have a few small house rules for today. We would like to ask everybody to please mute your cameras to save data and bandwidth. Also, we'd like to ask everybody to please mute your microphones, keep all the background noise to a minimum. If anybody has a question at any point in time, please feel free to raise your hand, or you can use the chat area if you have some mic problems. There will be question and answer sessions between the presentations. And then that's all from my side. Over to you, Dr. Gous.
Awesome. Thank you, team. Thank you very much. All right. So with every journey, you've got to start with one step, and you've got to start somewhere. So this is the start. We're going to do 4 sessions. This week is a very strange week because we have tomorrow off, you see, and then the team is doing an expo on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we rearranged our schedules, and so we're going to do 2 sessions today and then 2 sessions on Wednesday, and in between all that, hopefully it'll be a learning experience and enjoy. So I'm going to ask the team just to monitor the lobby, and I'm going to share my presentation, and this is where, you can see my screen and all that confirmation. All right. Okay. Okay. Yes. As everybody can see my presentation. All right, so here we go. Here we start. All right, so really welcome everybody. I think as we go along, we will be able to kind of just chat to each other and see where we all are. And hopefully we can also support each other. We've got 4 units in this series, and Tumelo at the end will also explain how we're going to access the iSet Robotics MOOC on the M1 portal. And there is an open invitation if you have any issues that you can't access the content. Tumelo is very happy to arrange a one-on-one session with you that you can understand how it works. So we'll do some introduction to building and programming today, and then on Wednesday we'll do some problem solving and passive attachments. All right. So the robotics basics is really focus on the grade 4 to 10s, and by way of introduction, I am Patricia Gous, and you heard the voice of Cabello, and Anzani and Tumelo are here, and then Casper and Anzani are in the group, and I have another helper here who's just given me a lovely cup of tea, Sylvia. Thank you, Sylvia. So it is really a team effort in everything we do. All right. We've got a team for all sessions. We have a team, and really, please reach out to any of us. We're all available on the iSet email address. So there are the emails. We use one email with multiple departments, and Casper is also available for the recording, so he will put those links onto the portal as soon as they become available. And we usually say by the end of the week they'll be up and running. Okay. I'm going to leave this for Tumelo to deal with when we get to the end. So Tumelo, just nod your head if you agree. Thank you. And he's giving me a thumbs up there. All right. So just by way of introduction, like where does this all fit in? I suppose what you do need to kind of get is that we are the UNISA Science Engagement Center here, and we have the iSet Robotics Community of Practice. And our focus at all times has been equipping coaches and teams to participate regionally, nationally, internationally in robotics competitions, and also creating awareness through expos. We are aware of the Department of Basic Education Coding and Robotics curriculum, and we are aware that they have the UNISA, the College of Education, and the College of Science, Engineering and Technology developed the 2 teacher resources, the digital literacy MOOC and the coding and robotics MOOC. That's also available on the UNISA MOOC portal. So it's all there. It's free for all. It's 24/7. You're most welcome to engage with those 2 MOOCs. ISET also has a lot of several MOOCs available, and we're going to publish another 2 hopefully by the end of this month. So there is our those are our live online learning sessions which you're attending, and then we also have the short learning programs which are also available through the UNISA Center for Lifelong Learning. Just by way of clarity, the Department of Science and Innovation has a branch, the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, and the board there is STEMI. I was on the board last year, and Cabela's on the board this year. It's basically to deal with all science Olympiads and competitions. The way going forward is that they have divided into 4 clusters, the one being mathematics, the other one is knowledge, the other one is innovation, and the last one is robotics and coding, where we are involved. And so under the robotics and coding cluster, there are several competitions that are available for learners. The first Lego League, the World Robot Olympiad, the Conquesta quizzes, the Robothon, and then the virtual gear competition. So it's all linked, and there's just, it's such a diverse opportunity. And so we're welcome to the community of practice. It's all linked. All right. So let's jump in, and we're going to do the components and the building of chassis. And I was going to say this is before COVID, and we are really hoping to return it to this hive of activity of learners and teachers engaging with robotics. We have been going on. We have been online since 2020, September 2020 we started. So we really got 24 months already online. But it's really good every time to meet with a cohort of visionary robotics coaches. And it's really to equip the coaches. But we cannot equip you unless you ask the question. So there's a chat, and my team will monitor that. And then there's also Q&A. And the recordings are available. You can go and watch them as often as you like. Okay. So robotics per se is kind of where the engineering and the programming and the 21st century skills kind of join up. And on the one hand, you're building with the robotics kit. So we've used these courses, we use the EV3 or the Spike Prime. There are still a couple of NXTs around. You can use a virtual robotics kit, and we'll kind of expound on that later. And then for the programming, you download it with the EV3, or you can use the Spike Prime software. And we're very aware that many of the learners are doing Scratch at school, so this should be easy peasy. And then the 21st century skills is this list of problem solving, creativity, innovation, critical thinking kind of stuff. And we need to start somewhere, so we've decided for this basics, we're going to start with motorized robots. So just 2 wheels. In terms of the kits that we use to build and the laptops and software we need to program, if you have an EV3 kit, you can either use the EV3 lab programming, which most of the programming examples are on lab. Otherwise, you can also use the EV3 classroom programming, and we will kind of show you the differences. And then if you've got a Spike Prime kit, then it's a Spike Prime programming, which is then the Scratch. It looks like Scratch. Okay, you will realize also in these sessions there is a plethora of resources that we share. With the EV3 robot, we just build the Riley rover. You just Google Riley rover and you'll get the building instructions. A good resource for the EV3s is the EV3 lessons. For Spike Prime, we just build a driving base. A good version or a good source is Prime Lessons. And it's very interesting that Prime Lessons are actually written by kids that have been participating in robotics competitions. They're not kids anymore though, yeah. There's YouTube videos, there's the how and the wow, and we'll talk about that later. There are online tutorials. One of my favorites is Builder Dude 35. I'll give you that reference later. And then there's this online community of robotics coaches that would love to share with you and love to learn with you and love to support you. All right. So I think the first place to start is like robotics what, and And so I found this diagram, and I want to think that there's more to it, but maybe it's just easy to start. So if you have a robot, it can either be mobile, so it actually moves, or it can be fixed. And that would be like your arms in assembly plant. So that would be a fixed robot where it doesn't move, it stays stationary. But your mobile robot can either be in the water or on land, which is terrestrial, or it can be airborne. So yeah, the drones are becoming cleverer. Your terrestrial, well, they're already on the moon, and your aquatic is definitely something that we're going to discuss soon. And in your terrestrial, you either walk it or you're on wheels, and then you can see whether you're on 2 wheels or 4 wheels or tanks, the tank wheels. But to know that there's no one robot, there's no one design, there's not ever one whatever. But it really is, it's an exciting and dynamic world. Okay, so by way of just a fun introduction, if you go and Google introducing the top 10 cutest robots of all things. Okay, so robot can be cute because I know they're not alive, but they get names and they kind of creep into your heart. So maybe if you look down the list here, Wall-E, it got a cuteness because he was in a movie, and then R2-D2 is quite a popular one. But maybe to go through the list and see, are there any robots that you recognize? There's a really cool quiz that you can do. Do you know the names of all the robots? So maybe I'll share that link with you as well. Okay, and then there's the top 10 robots of 2017. Very strange list, and it's moving further towards playing with your mind. But the Sophia is phenomenal. I met her. Well, I met the robot, and she talked with me, and her face showed emotion. Well, whatever robotic emotion is, mind-blowing if you just watch some of her videos. But I think if you really want to see kind of where you're going to, go and look at what Boston Dynamics are doing. We are not teaching kids robotics just for the sake of filling their time. We really are equipping our learners to not survive, but to thrive in the future. And yeah, it's a tall order in this changing world. Okay, so where are we? We are doing one kit, many robot designs. The pictures there are the EV3s. That's the Riley rover with different kind of attachments. The one's here's got a gripper. It's like a powered attachment, and this one's got an ultrasonic, so it's a sensor. But if you go and Google EV3, you can get many designs. Now, it's not only important to actually build those designs, it's actually important that your learners build a frame of reference about building different robots. So really, it's to experiment with as many robots as possible. The Spike Prime has only been out for a while, but they already have a whole collection of different robots. You'll probably see this more likely in like the driving bays. But it's also good every now and again to take time out and build these really wacky robots. They're very different, but it's also good as a learning experience. All right. So that is my introduction, and I'm going to. You can see everything here. So I'm going to move on to the second presentation, and then I will. And I'm going to ask, can you see my slideshow again? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up here. Thank you. All right. So where do we start, and where are we going to? Tumelo's going to explain just now where the MOOC portal is and where you can look for the information. But the first and foremost, there is an overview document, and each unit has an overview. And it's I'm really hoping that you will engage with this. We also have a kind of like a pre-test and a post-test, but we also have an evaluation, and we are inviting. We've got plenty of input over the months from participants. If you have something to share, if you would like to contribute something to this, please let us know and please share with it. All right. So the overview of Unit 1 is the focus obviously on the wheeled robot, which we're going to build. And then we'll give you examples of different wheeled robots. But for every robot, there's always a function. Okay, so if you have a large robot or a small robot or whatever robot you have, it must have a function and built for function. Some robots need to pick things up, so they'll need a gripper. Some things need to throw objects, well, then they'll have to have kind of a vertical arm that can throw something. You do need to be able to build adaptations to ensure that the robot can function as required. And for that, also, there are a number of videos where one of the colleagues has taken just a straightforward Riley rover and then adapted it for various functions. Straightforward robot, different functions, okay? Your learners will need to know what the components are, and I shudder when they say there's a thingy and another thingy and another thingy. They're not thingies. They are either wheels or axles or motors. They will not need to name all the components that you need to build this, but they will need to. If we show them a robot, they will need to be able to explain, why did you put wheels on? Why did you put tires on? Why did you put large tires on? Why did you put the motors here and not there? So that is, as we work through the material, just maybe think of that. And also then, how do you ensure that your robot is sturdy? There is nothing more sadder than teams picking up their robots and the whole thing falls apart. It needs to be sturdy and rigid, notwithstanding the fact that you really need to carry a robot with two hands, one underneath and one on top. Okay. The power source of the robot, the spike primes charge directly from the laptop, but the EV3s have got a battery pack, and I realized only last year that there were still some teams that still use the penknife batteries. That is just going to get far too expensive, and so I would highly suggest, if you still have EV3s, please purchase a battery pack that you can then charge the battery pack before class in the morning. It becomes one of the roles of the team. Remember, we have a team approach. And then last but not least, your learners do need to be able to describe how the robot actually moves or functions. And so they do need to know, why do you have motors? Why do you have arms? Why do you have, and they must be able to explain it. Some students explain it so well, you'll have to double look whether you see a child or an adult. All right. So linked to all the objectives. So these are the objectives of Unit 1. You need to be able to build a wheeled robot. You need to be able to build different, oh, there's a spelling error, a different robot, wheeled robot design. And then you need to be able to compare. All right. So there's a book called the Constructopedia. There's number 3, build the chassis from the Constructopedia. So the motors are either below the brain or alongside the brain or above the brain, or all different. The learners do need to be able to explain why one is better than the other, why one is more rigid than the other, why one is preferred to the other. So there's a number of Constructopedia designs. And then number 6 is when you change the wheels and you get track tires. So what does that imply about your robot and how it moves? Okay. And then you would also, number 7, but last but not least, ask the learners then, okay, so what happens if the robot did not have wheels? What could we do with it? And could grab it or pick it up or drop something. So linked to all these objectives are some building activities. You actually need to build the robot. You need to build the chassis. You need to build the Constructopedia. I'm going to show you what a chassis is now. Okay, so here's kind of one example of a robot. And it's not your normal robot. It only has 2 wheels. So obviously, if it's only got 2 wheels, it is balancing. It looks very different to the robot that I showed you previously. Okay, but it has a gyro. That's why it can balance. Okay, so what pieces are we going to use? So the Robotics Kit is either the EV3, which is in comparison quite gray and white and black and dull, and compared to the Spike Prime, which is like all the bright colors, but very similar functionality. It's not that the one is better than the other. It's just the new kit. Okay, it has lots of little pieces. So if you look at the pieces here, these are your beams. So if you count the number of holes, there's 5 holes. It says you have 5 holes. You just count the number of holes. To work out the length of your axle, you hold the axle against that, and you count the number of holes it has. So this will become a 5 axle, and that is a 6 axle. All right. Then you've got the bended beams, you've got the connectors, you've got all your gears, you've got your rigid structures, you've got 3 beams, you've got your connectors, and there's also some connector pins. All right, so let's get to the engineering part. Now, most of these topics, the learners actually have had exposure to in the technology. Okay, so it's input, process, output. They've heard about that. They've heard about friction and traction. They've heard about center of gravity, wheels, pulleys. Maybe not rolling resistance and backlash, but definitely the engineering design process, maybe with different names. And so what you want is you want learners to take what they've learned and to apply it. This is robotics is about application. It's not the theory of it. It's really they say minds on. You need to be in mind on drive to actually think a little further, use what you've learned, and then apply it. All right. So by way of what's what here. So if this is your EV3 brain, you have input ports and you have output ports. And so your input ports, which we'll get to only, when are we getting to that? No, next week. It's on M2. So these are the sensors that you don't have to connect all your sensors, you just connect some of them. So that will be the input. Your processing is your program that you're going to download on your brain, on your robot's brain, not your brain. And then your output ports are then your motors. And for this, we use the large motors for navigation. And then we use the medium motors. We usually use them for the arms. Okay, so yeah, the spike, it's different, but this is the EV3. Okay, all right. And then your EV3 brick, that needs to be, so your battery pack is, if you see it over here, your battery pack is like underneath here. And then there's your battery pack, it clicks in underneath there, and then you can keep that well charged. All right, so this is the spike brain or hub, as they call it. You can see it's more colorful and it's different colors. And the thing about the sensors of the spike is that they've already got their wires connected. So you just click it in on the side over here, over there, and on the side over there. All right, and that's your large motors, and those are your medium motors, also a bit more colorful, but the same function. All right, and again, all the pieces. This picture is a bit blurry, but you understand. So it's got the beams, it's got the axles, it's got all the gears, it's got all the connector pieces, it's got lots of rigid pieces. It's got many more rigid pieces than the EV3 had. All right, I've told you about how to work the axles out, and the vocabulary is important. Please use the correct name because it actually it confuses everybody if you use the wrong words. You will find in your class that some learners will start adapting the names and making up their own names. Just make sure they know they're all talking about the same piece. Okay, so now the question is, so what robot do I build and how do I build a robot? Because we're now in the building session. All right. Well, to start with, we're going to use building instructions. And I really want to encourage you, download the building instructions and get your learners to build a robot, because we want to make it move. The most important learning leap of faith is to get a robot to actually move. And then we can think about changing the robot or changing the design, but just get a robot, build a robot from building instructions and make it do something. Okay. So luckily, there is gazillion resources. So if you just look up Spike Prime building instructions, some people have even got the videos for you, so you can watch the videos. There are instructions, and more instructions you need to choose. All right, so where do we start? If you have an EV3 kit, I would suggest you use the Riley Rover. It's an easy robot. Your learners will not struggle too much with that. But if you go to EV3 lessons, there are a lot of robots that you can build. There is a droid robot for EV3. The droid bot, and the droid bot, they've also got building instructions for Spike, so you can use that. And then for Spike Prime, on Prime lessons, there are a plethora of designs, straightforward designs. You want a little robot, a little driving base that you can actually build and put together and start driving. Okay. And just in case you think there's not enough, there are, you just look and there are more and there are more. So there's the droid bot, there's some robot designs. You can really choose and you can download your building instructions. And just by way, the Session brothers actually have been participating in robotics competitions since forever. And they are just plowing back into the community all that they've learned. well done to them. Okay, so how does your building instructions look? Your building instructions will look like something like this. This is step number 3. What do you need? You need an axle of length 4. You need one of those. You need one of the connectors. You need one of these connectors. What do you do with it? You put this one into there. It shows you, and then you put that one into there. It's got little arrows how you do it. No words needed, and so easy to follow. I just need to caution, though, that learners don't automatically understand going from a 2-dimensional picture like this to 3-dimensional building of a robot. So initially it might take a little longer, but they will get it eventually. All right, again, here's for step number 22, you take one of these, you turn the robot upside down, and you put it in there. You can see it there. All right, and so it all fits in. You just have to follow the instructions, the wordless instructions. Okay. And then some people have actually got a whole video for you to watch. They lay out all the pieces you'll need, and they show you exactly how to connect all the pieces. There really are a lot of resources. And again, if you're looking for a particular resource and you can't find it, please send us an email, and I'm sure we'll be able to find it for you. Okay. And there's more, and there's more, and there's more. You'll also see that there's some really cool ones. There's like the wheelchair, and there's the quad pod, and so there's different robots. Yeah, all exciting. And then for the teacher who really is very busy, there's actually a book called Classroom Activities for the Very Busy Teacher. There's one for EV3, and now there's one out for Spike Prime. You can see it's all downloadable, all free. You can just use it, and yeah. Just on that moment, I just need to caution, you are welcome to use all these resources, but I would encourage you that when your learners present a design that's not their design, they need to acknowledge that they've used somebody else's designs. That's fine, that's good. And then when they upgrade or they change the design, then they can also acknowledge that they've made the following changes. Okay. Okay. So what are we expecting from the learning of these building instructions? Well, I've mentioned the 3D thinking, that to go from 2D a picture to a 3D thinking, that's part of the learning of robotics. Following instructions is not always that easy, and especially skipping steps doesn't come naturally. Learning a new vocabulary, learning to talk about ultrasonic sensors and touch sensors and axles and wheels, but every domain has its vocabulary. Problem solving. We do not encourage learners to sit back and say, well, we haven't got the answer. If you have a problem, you ask. You ask for assistance, and somebody will, and you as the coach do not need to know all the answers, but you can tell the learners, we don't know what the answer is, and we are willing to go and look, or why don't you go and look and come back and tell the class what the answer could be. All right. And then teamwork, we never, ever, ever go solo. Please, at all times, I have a whole collection of teamwork exercises and fun activities that you can encourage teamwork. I'll share that later with you, but also we have to work as a team. So you'll get that some learners would want to build one part and the other one wants to program, but you do need to share. Everybody needs to get a turn to build, and everybody needs to get a turn to program, especially in the beginning. Okay. That's what I was talking about, the Constructopedia, and that's the download for it. I haven't found the Constructopedia for Spike Prime yet. I must find that. All right. So I'm going to stop a minute. So far, are there any questions? Any questions that we can address? No? All right. Then let me do my last session for this hour. Let me just, so this is something, we're just going to change the tempo a little bit, and this is actually for the coaches, and it's about classroom management of robotics kits. As a coach, you do need to manage the robotics kits, and you also need to manage the learners' teamwork. All right. So, this is my bane of my existence, is when learners do not accept responsibility for robotics kits, and everything is just thrown together. So on this, you'll see the pieces are lying all over. They tend to fall. For me, the biggest problem is that this brain is balancing on the corner of a laptop that's plugged in here to a wire. So if somebody down the line pulls this wire, everything is going to go flying. First, the brain is going to go, and then the laptop's going to go. So no, not okay. Also, if pieces go missing, then you are actually lessening the fun for other learners, because then there'll only be one wheel and you can't build a robot with one wheel. Okay, so please, please, please don't let this happen. Use the lids to build on. Keep the pieces well organized. The teams are allocated a kit, say for a term or a season, whenever they're building their robots. That's their responsibility, and it must be left neat and tidy. Laptops that must shut down, you must save your programs, and preferably save them somewhere else as well. All right. So for new coaches, it's always cool and fun and very, very hectic and fun. But you need to be aware of time. And so your learners will be very quick to realize that if they get their parents to pick them up half an hour before you end your class, they can get out the class, and then you will find yourself one day, and only one day, where you're sitting with all the robots open and all the laptops open, and it looks like chaos. So I would encourage you to end the class, say about 20 minutes before time's up. Every team needs to clean up. Every team needs to put their robots in, and to get a storage container for half-built models and half-built attachments. Put them in that container. We call it a garage, a robot garage. But make sure the kits are neat and tidy. Make sure the laptops are, all programs are saved and shut down and neatly stored. And then there must also be time for sharing. So just go back here. There must be time for sharing. They need to be able to iterate to you and tell the class, what did I learn? Doesn't have to be mind-blowing stuff, but there needs to be some learning happening. I often use trays, and we always work in teams. So one looks at the computer, one gets the pieces out the box, and the other one tries and puts the things together. But we all work in teams, and yeah, that's how we work. So I have a whole lot of trays like that. You can see even the older girls in the class were well trained on that one. Okay, so allocate space for your boxes and your laptops in your building areas. I'll use lots of trays. Somebody needs to check the floor, keep the boxes sorted. So I would annually actually clean my kits, actually wash them with disinfectant and warm water, soapy water, once a year. Especially our kits that travel all over South Africa, they get very dirty, but the learners do need to take ownership. Okay. Your EV3 brick, that is in and of itself a fun part, because the battery pack needs to be, keep it in your brick and then charge it in there, your rechargeable battery pack. But the firmware needs to be updated. You need to remove projects from the brain, otherwise it gets clogged up. Connect the wires that they click in properly. And things can go wrong with the EV3, and there's a link there. And I think Dr. Hino's also got a really cool explanation for what could possibly go wrong. All right. Teamwork is not that easy. Not all learners are team players, but you as the coach, you can give people different roles to play, or they've got different pieces, and then they've got to choose the pieces. But maybe groups of 3 initially, or groups of 4, and until you get them to a bigger team combination. All right. So there are lots of useful resources available, especially in terms of robotics competitions, your virtual gear, your first competitions, and your World Robot Olympiads. There are lots of building guides, which we'll be sharing with you. There's a lot of online tutorials, and there's also YouTube videos. I've highlighted here the Builder Dude 35. The young boy was started out when we were on the start, and has now got his own channel. He's got his own book, but he has a collection of really good tutorials that you can use, and show your kids the videos as well, that they can engage with it. All right. So there's lots of building guides and element guides of how to sort things. There is a virtual robotics toolkit that you can download and install as well. Before you do, though, there is I think a 3-month no, 40 days, 30 days trial period that you can use, and you get a key for that before you buy it. You can use it for designing things. Unfortunately, it's not for programming, but the important thing is it's free and you can start using it now. So I would encourage you to then install the programming software and then to register for the MOOC, complete MOOC 1, build at least one robot and then share your ideas. And so that's our email address, and Anzani is in that email and she will definitely answer all your questions. All right. So there's the end of Unit 1. And now I'm going to stop a moment and I'm going to ask, are there any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to get Tumelo to explain about the MOOC portal. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Casper, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we did have a few comments from Almarie in the chat area.
Okay. Okay. Should I go and look there quickly? All right, just a minute.
It's just lessons learned through time.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Maybe Tumelo, do you want to show where the MOOC portal is and how to access the robotics MOOCs?
All right. Yes. I shall do that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let me quickly share my screen. Yeah. I'm unmuted and
We can hear you.
okay, I think participants can hear me because you're muted. All right, in order for you to log into the MOOC portal, you simply go into your tab and type moc.unisa.ac.za/portal. And then underneath the UNISA logo, it's written how to register. As soon as you click on how to register, you will see a PDF file with instructions on how to register for a MOOC portal. And then because it's a bit updated, I'll just show you. When you just underneath the UNISA logo, it's welcome, how to register, site browser, new account. The new account, you just need to create your own user ID. First name, last name, as well as email address, and create your own personal password. As soon as you are done with that, you go to your user ID, you click on your user ID, and then you enter your password. When you have logged in, this is the page that you will see. On this page, underneath the UNISA logo, there is overview, profile, and membership. You simply click on membership. Underneath membership, this is the file. This is the page that you'll see. You'll have to go to joinable sites, because as you can see there, it's written membership, and then after membership, it's my current sites, my official course enrollments, as well as joinable sites. Go to where it's written joinable sites. After clicking joinable sites, you need to scroll down and look for the ISET MOOC portal, which is ISET Robotics M1 2022. If you can't find it while looking for it down there, you can simply click on it here on the search button. As you can see, clicking on ISET Robotics Robotics M1, and then I click on search. So because I already have this on my site, it won't appear, but on your site, it will appear. And then as soon as you have clicked on join, go to my current sites. After clicking on my current site, you'll find it here, which will be ISET Robotics M1. When you click on it, this is the page that you'll see. On the page that you see, these are basic instructions of how to participate in this MOOC. Looking at the highlighted part here, it says that the M1 MOOC is available from February to 30 November 2022 to ensure all registered students are given an opportunity to submit all the requirements of completion for the M1 MOOC. Please note that there are no due dates, but the MOOC will officially close on the 30th of November, meaning that you can still submit your Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as the portfolio before the 30th of November. And in order for you to get more information regarding this is when you participate in our sessions. I'll just simply go into our session recordings. When you click on session recordings, you will find our past recordings that we have recorded. So we have uploaded all our recordings under the MOOC portal. The reason being is because it's 0 rated, meaning that your data won't be used. So we are helping you at the same time. And as Dr. Jose was explaining, when you click on the overview, you get to find out what's happening on the MOOC portal, and then more information will follow. But when you click on Unit 0, there is where you find some basic orientation regarding this MOOC portal, as well as for any information regarding this, please let us know. Don't hesitate and email us on the ISET email. Thank you so much. I'll take questions if there are based on this MOOC portal, if you do have any questions. Yes, I'm seeing a hand somewhere. Oh, Alpheus, yes.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
I'm well, thanks. And yourself?
I am good.
Sure.
I just wanted to know with regard to the MOOC 1, maybe 2021. Are we not supposed to get some certificates after going through all the units for that particular year?
Definitely, you should be getting a certificate. If you don't mind, kindly please send us an email on the subject line indicating that you need a certificate. And then we'll do a follow-up regarding that. You're talking about the last year's MOOC, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You should certainly get your certificate. Did you complete all your units and submit the portfolio?
Yes.
All right, you shall look into it.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the MOOC? Anyone who's new, anyone who's struggling, this is a lifetime opportunity. And if there are no questions, I'll hand over to Dr. Jose. And then if you do have any questions regarding the MOOC, you're welcome to set up a Teams meeting with me, and then I can guide you further on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamila. There we go. Okay. Phew. Okay, so you're keen and eager to start building your robot. I think the first step is just to find building instructions and just to build a robot. And it's really, you've got to start. You just have to take one building instructions and you've got to build the robot. All right, so we're going to, if there are no other questions, no other comments? No? All right, so we're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back on Unit 2 just now. Grab yourself a fresh cup of coffee, and then we'll see you back at 4 o'clock for Unit 2. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you just now. Thank you. Thanks, Casper, if you can stop the recording.